Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Skura, also known as Islands in Front, and today we'll be talking about my newest list, which is probably what I'm going to play in Lucca. There is still a month of testing ahead of me, but this is where I am at. So, this is the list. You can already take a look at it. The new things are no mutagenic, 3 snap, and a very, very focused sideboard. As you see, 4 bind into 5 artifact enchantment hate into 6 red hate. But the way I want to talk about this list, because the rest is pretty stock as far as I'm concerned, right? 3 Strixes, of course, is I want to tell you how I came to this list and these numbers. First of all, by the way, you've got the link to this deck, to the full deck list in the description. It has a split between Intruder and Humbling Elder, but it's the same card. And also, in the description, you can find a link to the guide with a cheat sheet for 30 matchups. 30 matchups in and out for this list specifically. And as I say here, before the Geddon, I will also update my huge in-depth guide, right? Which is with proper game plan descriptions, right? Right now, until I'm sure what the deck list is, it's just going to be this cheat sheet for 30 matchups. Now, let's go. Slideshow. So, basically, I know what the core of the deck is, and now I need to decide which flex slots are good and how good. So I went through all the cards I'm interested in and compared to the top, or juxtapose it against, let's say 10 to 15 matchups I think I kind of expect to play against, and then I'll see how good the card performs. So to give you an example, Brainware Intruder. So the minus is bad or not really good, plus is good, and then this line is like kind of half-ish. And it's a screenshot directly from my tier list video. You can go back there. And then I used Microsoft Paint to assess it roughly. Of course, when you look at there below, for example, Bevel Blade is just a placeholder for core Skyfisher decks, right? Just don't pay too much attention to it. Because that was just an exercise I did on my own. And then I decided to make a bit of content out of it for you. So you see into my head. So Intruder. Fine against Terra, not Stellar. Fine against Affinity, I guess, because you can, make Refurbish smaller. Against Giant Wildfire, kind of the same thing. Although it gets outmatched much easily because they have more powerful creatures. But it's kind of similar. Good against Fairies. Against Pingerburn because they have the Pingers, which don't really attack. Unless we're talking about the version which has more creatures, so that you have to adapt on the fly. But, no, doesn't add anything against High Tide. It's just a creature. Same against Gruul. And, yeah, so that's the logic, right? So let me talk about the interesting stuff and every card. So, Intruder is just like, okay across the board. Snap is good against Terra. It's meh against Affinity and Jund, but you can make some use of it. Good against Fairies, good against Pinger, good against High Tide, because you can untap your lands in response to Giga Drowse. Good against Gruul decks, average against Rakdos, and then very decent in the C tier. Mutagenic, kind of bad against all the top 3, in my opinion. Considering that Affinity has Galvanic Blast, which deals 4 damage specifically. So you cannot save anything from it, really. Decent against Fairies and Pinger when you have to block. And not good at the Elves, okay against Walls. Kind of not really good. That's why you saw it cut from the deck. Dispel. Fine against Terra, counters any cantrip we want. Against Affinity and Jund, counters all of the 7 or 8 draw effects, counters all the removal, counters Sweepers post-board, counters Blast post-board. Great. Bad against Fairies. Pingerburn, again, depends on which matchup, which version we talk about, because I have Madness Burn as well. But if you see, for example, Demand Answers, it's going to be great. If you see, more sorcery removal, it's worse, right? So more creature heavy, Dispel less good. High Tide, great. Gruul bad. Rakdos Burn, okay, has targets. Elves, Walls, Auras bad. So it's very, very good in the top 3, kind of falls off from that point, but it's serviceable. Spell Pierce. So it's clearly just worse against Terra. It's okay. But because everything costs 1 mana for them, no, it's very easy to not cash in Spell Pierce ever. Against Affinity and Wildfire, it's fine. But considering I always play Spell Pierce on like turn 3+, rarely, because turn 1 and turn 2 are for creature development, then it's very easy for them to play like a draw 2 with 4 mana on turn 4 and play around Spell Pierce, and then you would have to hope they double spell. But also Spell Piercing something like Ico Wellspring is not a win in my book. It's not a good exchange. It's a fine exchange, but it doesn't really meaningfully progress your game plan. It doesn't really stifle their game plan. It doesn't counter something that you would want countered anyways. A Wellspring is kind of whatever. So I think just Spell Pierce isn't really good. A lot of minuses here, and I'll probably stand by it. Nullify. Just fine, but unexciting. And if you factor in its 2 mana, unexciting plus 2 mana equals not that good. Snare Master in Strix slots, which is basically how many 1-drops to play and what the split is. And I landed out at 2-3. 2 Snare Master, 3 Strix. Strix is just typically just vastly better than Snare Master, but Snare Master has meaningful utility in games with the tap ability, stun ability, and the fact that it's a Fey. So I land at 2-3 split, and most people play 14 1-drops. I play 16 1-drops. And the logic is pretty simple. If you think of your hand, and if it's a keep, I did an exercise. There is not a single 7-card hand that I would keep against an unknown opponent with no 1-drop. Just such a hand does not exist, genuinely. It's different if I'm mulliganing. It's a bit different if I know the matchup. But there is not a single hand I will keep on a 7. I mean, maybe you can try to come up with some examples but like, it's going to be pretty tough. It probably would include like Spell Stutter, Ninja, Lance, and maybe like Snap something, but like without a 1-drop, it's a really hard sell. And so because of that, because the mulligan rate increases so much when I don't have a 1-drop, I want at least 1, and hence I play 16 1-drops and not 14 like people typically play. When it comes to sideboard, Annul/Sabotage is awesome against 2 of the top 3. Then it's bad against the whole B tier, and then has some utility in the C tier. Bind the Monster, really good against Terra, mid against Jund, but you have to play it. Decent against Fairies and the Chrysalis decks, and then the C tier creature strategies. I wanted to also examine when Unable to Scream is better than Bind the Monster. Now, forgetting for a moment about the specifics, it's just the effect of tapping versus turning off the ability. And so against Terra, there is Mystic, but also lack of life loss. This is where life can matter a bit. Against Jund, against any Chrysalis deck, it's going to be miles worse. Same for Gruul monsters. It's also miles worse against Fairies, because if you do it on a Ninja, the Ninja can still attack, and if it's unblocked, you can swap it out for something else. And there you've lost your card. So, but then it's much, much better against Elves and Wolves because of Quirion Ranger. So now, seeing that, my decision was very simple. I'm not going to play Unable to Scream. Because against Terra, I made a plus, but it shouldn't have been really a plus. It's just like, I don't know, it's okay. It's a bit better. Like, you don't have the life loss, but they can chump block, which is something I really hate. But so if you consider it's close, and then it's bad against Chrysalis and bad in the mirror match, it's a plus for me. Hydroblast, D's against 2 of the top 3, really good against Pinker Burn, and then Rakdos Burn, and then Madness Burn. Yeah, Rakdos and Madness Burn, yeah. And that's it. So this is what I did. It's like an exercise, right? I went and I did that separately, every single card. I judged it more or less. And then the outcome of that exercise was indeed this list. this list that plays 4 bind in the sideboard into 5 with a split for now, but I won't be surprised if it changes, depending on how big the sabotage effect will be against Affinity and Junk, because these are the big players, versus catching cards like Hydra, Munitions, and just Boggles as a deck. So this split remains to be tested, and whether I want 6 blasts in total. So this is the deck, this is the list, this is the logic, this is the link, description, and this is going to be the guide for you to have in-outs for 30 matchups. And those matchups include everything from basically almost like everything from the tier list that I did last time. So a ton of matchups. Do expect, as I said in the guide itself, a huge update to this, so it's perfectly up to date with the new decks like Flickertron and High Tide, without the ban deck like Brute and also with the new list. I'll probably submit my Geddon list like in my head, like I'll be sure of my list like a week or two beforehand. So from this date, you can expect, I think, the update in like 2 or 3-ish weeks. And yeah, that's it. So now you understand how I approach this. You understand my logic, I hope, because the logic is most important, because cards change, meta changes, but logic typically stays the same. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And as always, please remember to hold my hand. Let's puzzle it together. And I will see you next time. Cheers. Boo!